Hi, and welcome to Bath's Teams Conversations. This will involve me and a couple of ambassadors discussing various topics around university, such as what is university, looking at applying and choosing a university, as well as talking about what life is like at the University of Bath. In this video, we'll be comparing university to school, talking about things that are quite different from school, such as going to lectures instead of being in classes, how the class sizes can vary quite a lot at university and are often quite much bigger than they are at school, as well as other ways of learning, such as having laboratory sessions and having different types of assessment, like a lot of essays and other types of assessment, such as presentations. We'll also be talking a little bit about extracurricular life, so what you can get involved with outside of your studies at university. We hope you enjoy this video. I'm Callie Rice, and I am the Student Recruitment Assistant here at the University of Bath, but I myself was also a student at Bath for 4 years, and I studied biology as my undergraduate. I'm joined by 3 student ambassadors today. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Mackyla, and I study social sciences here at the University of Bath. I'm a third year student and I'm currently on my placement year.
Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm a second year physics student on the 4 years integrated masters in physics with astrophysics.
And I'm Sarah. I'm a second year student here studying education with psychology.
What would you say is the main difference between university and school?
For me, it was the step up from learning. So in college, you go from obviously learning throughout the year, not really doing any assessments unless you did coursework. So I did all exams, and they were essay exams at the end of the year. At university, you kind of have assignments most weeks. I know that I had like 2 essays like every 3 weeks. So obviously you have to do a lot of research. You have to make sure you have got a lot of time to do those. I'd say a week per essay was probably like the right amount of time you needed.
So you're kind of being assessed like all the time?
Yeah, so you get assessed all the time instead of like yearly, basically.
Yeah, weirdly different for my subjects. At school, you didn't have any assessments throughout the year until you did your GCSEs and your A-levels, so they were 100% right at the end. At university, every week you'll have a lab for most of the sciences. I think chemistry, you have 2 every week. Physics, first and second years, you only have 1 a week. And those always count. So you've always got to keep up to date with the material, keep understanding what you're learning, because what you learn in your lectures straight away gets applied and you have to start using in your reports and whatnot. But at the same time, all of my modules are 100% exam based by the end of it, except for the experimental side. You just have to learn all the lecture content in a really different format. I had very small classes at school because not many people wanted to take physics and maths and further maths, so it was more one-on-one with the teacher and they could help you out much more. This is, unfortunately, it's you who has to learn what you want to learn. It's an independent scenario, so you go into a lecture hall, 100 to 200, even more than that, students in the room with you, and you just have to listen, write your own notes and get your own work done and get the best mark that you can get out of it. It's a bit less of a safety net in that sense. Less school teachers to push you.
Yeah, I think that independence thing was a big difference for me as well, in terms of like being in control of my own learning. I definitely had fewer like actual lessons at university, so I have 10 hours a week with a member of staff. So that's quite different to school, and that meant I was more in control of what I did in my own time as well. So kind of reading around my subjects, like finding out what research was happening at the time. That wasn't something I really did at school in the same way. My teachers would kind of set me a piece of work and I would have to do that. So then coming to university, where I actually didn't have that much contact with a member of staff, and then I kind of decided and had to be independent in what I did around the edges. That was a big difference, I think.
Yeah, with the independence though, like for me, it was kind of a nice thing that you got to do what you like, kind of. So you kind of get to choose what subjects you study. It might be specific to my course because I study social sciences, so there is like a broad range of topics you can choose, and I get a lot of optional units. I know that some courses you don't get that many optional units, but before you come to university you can check like what assessments you'll be doing. So you might be doing exams, coursework, like group projects, but you can check that all before university. When you are choosing units, you can also see, so for example, there'll be like 20 units for me to choose from. Each of them beforehand will tell me what assessment method it is. So in a sense, I get to choose what I'm best at. So if for example, I am best at writing coursework and essays, so I don't usually choose the exam-based unit. So in that sense, it is better. There is also a lot of help available at the university. So although it is quite different from school, you have the skills centre. So I use the skills centre because I did struggle quite a lot with the step up of essay writing. I didn't really know how to reference anything like that. So I went to like an essay writing workshop, which really, really helped me. So although you are independent, you kind of do get used to it, and there is a lot of help available as well.
Yeah. And that flexibility as well that you were talking about with kind of what units you take, I like that transfers over into how you do your work as well. So not only do you get to choose what you're actually studying, you don't have to be in a certain place to do it. Like I can work at home, I can work in the library, I can go to a cafe in town, which I really like. I prefer that kind of relaxed environment. So that's definitely something I enjoyed about the kind of shift.
Although, luckily, if you want to have a more structured course, you don't have to worry about picking modules. There is always the option you can specialize early on when you select your courses. You can choose with certain flavor, such as myself with astrophysics. I don't get choices until I think my master's year, or I get one choice in my third year and two choices in my master's year. So I very much just get first pick of what I thought I was already interested in, and therefore it meant I was guaranteed to do the modules I wanted, and I just kind of flow straight through much easier.
Yeah.
Does that mean the general physics has more flexibility then?
Generally in physics, up until your third year, so first and second years, it's totally rigid because it's an accredited course by the Institute of Physics. Anyone that does physics for their first 2 years in the UK on an accredited course does the exact same modules. They can name them differently, but it's always exams and always the same content. In your third year, though, there's different domains that people like specialize in. Same thing for biology and chemistry and many other subjects. But I chose already to specialize when applying for my course, just because I thought this is where my interests mostly lied already.
Cool. Yeah, I was quite lucky with the others as well, that I got quite a lot of flexibility in my course. So in biology, everything was set in first year so that we all had a little bit of everything and we were all up to the same sort of level with everyone else. And then from that point, I only had one or two compulsory units afterwards, and they were sort of more around sort of like data interpretation and research methods, whereas the rest of it you could choose. There wasn't a humongous range of things to choose from, but there was enough to give you the chance to sort of tailor your degree to how you enjoyed it. And some people, as you said, did kind of go for that one's more coursework based, I'm going to go for that one, or that one's purely exams, I'm going to go for that one. So some people were able to like play to their strength. Lectures are quite different from being in the classroom, because up until going to university, all I had ever been was in just a small classroom, 20 to 30 students, and going into a lecture hall, I found quite a bit of a shock when you're suddenly in a room with like 300 people. I felt that was just quite a strange experience, because you feel like you're just one of many and you're not really as engaged, I feel. How do you guys feel about lectures?
So my course is actually quite small. There are only about 40 of us. So a lot of our lectures are more like a classroom vibe anyway. So we all kind of know each other, and they're quite discussion based. So I quite like that. That made the transition a little bit easier. But then I do also have one or two bigger lectures a week where I'm with all of the psychology students. So my education modules are smaller, and then my psychology students are bigger. And I was so surprised the first time I went into a lecture theatre, because I'd kind of had these smaller lectures, so I thought it was a bit more like school. And then I went in and I was like, everyone is here. And the thing that really surprised me was the coughing. Like, people coughing, and I was like, what is this? Like, that was honestly my first thought.
I find that they like trigger each other, and one person starts coughing and then everybody else.
First couple of weeks, it's like the kind of freshers flu is set in, and so it just goes around the room, and you just get like a Mexican wave of coughing.
Yeah, but then finally that settled down, so that was good, and I got used to it, and I quite like the big lectures now.
You do just get used to
it is an adjustment, but you do get used to it, and it's fine. So I quite like that I have a mix of the bigger lectures and the smaller ones. But yeah, that's my.
I'm kind of the same. So on my specific course, there's only 12 of us. So usually we are like mixed in with other people's courses basically. But yeah, there's like more popular courses. So I've done a psychology unit as well, where you with like, I don't know, 200 people. And then I have like the smaller units where I'm in like a seminar room with like 20 people. So it really does vary depending on what units you pick. I personally really like the big lecture halls just because you feel like, I don't know, like you're in the same position as a lot of people, and there's a lot of people like to make friends with and like to ask for help. So yeah, I really like the lecture environments, but you also do have seminars as well, so they're more intimate learning spaces. So I think they're mostly taught by like PhD students, so you can ask questions to them. I know it's different for other courses that have like labs and things like that, but for social sciences you have seminars, so it's like discussion-based learning.
Yes, I was going to ask about sort of different types of teaching. So there's the obvious sort of lectures. Mackyla, you just sort of mentioned seminars. I didn't have seminars until my final year, and our seminars were actually peer-to-peer learning. So we'd all been given a topic at the beginning of the semester, and then we all had to go away in our little groups and actually come up with a presentation and then present it to the rest of the class. So that's sort of how our seminars work. But the largest sort of difference from school that in that sense was that we had a lot of lab sessions. So for my sciences, I did the 3 sciences for A levels, and we only did maybe like 1 or 2 experiments across the year, and that was just for the coursework. But then at university, I had a lab session every week in first year, so I was always sort of hands-on, and I quite liked that style of learning. I quite liked the practical side of it, and I got to learn a lot of cool different techniques.
Once every now and again, the lecturer will switch out one of his slots with a problems class to go over a problem sheet. Problems classes go over the practice sets of problems that you get throughout the year. Because your course covers a lot in detail, you get at least 6 to 8 problem sheets per module throughout the course of a semester, because you have to make sure that you're both picking it up but able to apply the knowledge. And it's not required that you do the problems before the problems class. Some people turn up because maybe they haven't really got it into their head yet. It can be quite difficult, certain parts. And so the purpose of that then is that they're kind of picking it up by having the first questions done for them. And then usually he starts off by asking, what questions have you got troubles with that you want me to go over? Or sometimes they know they've put really hard ones in. They'll say, oh yeah, question 7, 8, 9. We put those in. We don't expect you to answer them, but we'll go over them once you've got your bits covered. And there'll be a PhD student maybe walking around. The lecturer themselves will walk around. They'll ask you what you struggled with. You can put up your hand and just be like, I really need someone to go over this question. I can't get the right solutions. But usually after the session, they'll also upload worked solutions online so that you don't have to turn up. You're not going to be penalised if you forget or miss or have other commitments. So again, leeway with your time, and you got to go to what you think is useful for you.
That's actually another point there, actually, that is that you don't have to necessarily turn up to a lot of things. So nobody takes a register during lectures. The only things that I had to go to were my labs. So those ones you'd have to sign in and sign out of, because those are actual practical skills, whereas the lectures are usually online as well. So you can go back and check out the presentation online and make sure that you've gone over the content, even if you've got like something else to go to, or if you're feeling really unwell or something. So there are actually a lot more options at university to sort of turn up what you essentially want to. Obviously it's better that you turn up to as much as you can, but not everybody goes that way. But that's actually quite an interesting difference from school, is that you don't have a teacher sort of making sure you're in class all the time. Where were you yesterday? Have you handed in your homework? There's none of that. It's kind of up to you to get on with that, and if you don't hand something in on time, nobody's going to chase you up. You're just going to fail for that particular piece of coursework. So it's quite pressurizing in that sense. But moving on to a slightly lighter topic, what would you say is different extracurricularly from school? So all the outside of class activities.
At university, there is, well, for me anyway, there's a lot more variety of what you can do extracurricular wise. So you have like over 100 societies. I think we have over 50 sports clubs. I think everything hosts like a taster session. So you can try literally everything out. So at college, you don't really have that. Well, I didn't at mine anyway. I don't think there was like any sports clubs to join unless I just didn't look hard enough. So yeah, that's really nice, and you can literally just try a lot more activities out.
At school, there's no pressure except for like the sports that you have to do or whatever. If that's even a case, there's nothing really that you feel probably quite attached to. At least I didn't feel like any of the clubs or anything that ran at my school, which wasn't much. like any of them really called out to me. Whereas at uni, there's just so much to choose from that you're bound to eventually find the right thing that clicks for you. And that's one of the great things about uni. No matter where you go in the UK, I think everyone has a students' union and have sports and clubs and societies that are supported by that. And so there's so many opportunities to make new friends, to try out new hobbies. I never danced in my entire life before university and decided to join a Latin and Ballroom dance club just for the sake of it. It's great fun, met great people, and now I'm committee for it. You never know where you'll end up going, but you'll meet a lot of great people along the way if you just give it a try.
Yeah, I think that like there are so many different things to get involved in, which was definitely different to school. But also the fact that you're living away from home a lot of the time is a big difference. Like you're living with your friends and you kind of make friends from your course and from the clubs and sports that you do and from like people that you live with. And that's really cool. Like it kind of becomes another little family in a way that school didn't really. Like for me, school kind of ended at the end of the day and I'd go home, apart from like homework and stuff, whereas like university, you live there. So it's really easy to kind of get immersed in that and try loads of things out and make new friends. And I think that's a big difference that I really enjoyed.
I think at university as well, like everyone takes their learning really seriously, and that's kind of different from college. So obviously you choose a single subject or maybe more that obviously you're passionate about. So like there is a really nice environment rather than at school someone might have chosen a subject because they had to choose like a third subject. So like for me, I personally like love university compared to college just because I love independent learning. Like I love the like assessment style. So just the fact that you can choose when to do your assessments. Well, I can anyway with like coursework.
Good for some.
And it has inspired me to further learning now. So I've chosen to do a master's when I graduate. Wow. So like I never thought that I would have done that in college, for example.
Awesome. Well, that was really nice to hear. So I guess that will sort of wrap up our session on this. Thank you very much, guys, for chipping in on that and sharing your opinions and experiences, because you guys are all sitting quite different courses, which is quite interesting. So that concludes our session on how is university different from school. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next time.